Welcome to the July 30th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. First, I'll take roll call. Adrian Costello. Here. Jenny Tolbert.
Here.
And we have, I'm sorry?
Here.
And Anthony Bush and Colin Cole unable to make the meeting. First on the agenda, we will go for the approval of the minutes from the April 29th and June 9th, 2025 meetings. Any questions or comments?
I guess we should do them separately.
We can do it separately.
Okay. I move that we approve the minutes from the April 29th, 2025 meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
I also move that we approve the minutes from the June 9th, 2025 meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous 3-0. We'll go now to the floodplain ordinance amendment to be consistent with the requirement for FEMA Community Rating System Program. I know that, Ginny, you had a couple of questions that you had raised.
Yes. I don't know if they made sense, but
They did, and I can address those.
okay.
So just to go over, you may recall we had a discussion about the amendments to the floodplain ordinance that are required as part of our participation in the community rating system. The one thing that was a topic of discussion was the issue of substantial improvement, and is that cumulative or how does that work? I have added some revised language that addresses that. That comes from some other communities. In that, we've added the phrase that the work would be taking place during a 10-year period in which the cumulative cost would equal or exceed 50% of the market value. That's something that gains a good amount of points for the community rating system for our community to hopefully at some day get a higher discount for our residents who do get NFIP flood insurance. The 50% of the market value is pretty much a standard that's used nationwide. That's in all of the model ordinances. You can go higher than that or lower, depending how you look at it. That, though, could put a burden on homeowners for cost in that once you reach that threshold, then you would have to elevate your home. So, renovate your home, putting on a roof, changing out your heating system, stuff like that. It could rack up in some homes so that you actually would either have to move out of your house or spend an extra $100,000 to elevate it. Once you reach that half the value of a home, then, quite frankly, it is something that makes perfect sense, which is why FEMA and communities nationwide have used that 50% as sort of a standard.
What I was questioning, and the reason I had suggested 25%, I didn't know 50% was pretty standard across the country. I thought that wasn't clear to me. But I would think, generally speaking, we'd want to discourage additional building in the floodplain. And I thought that if the threshold was lower, it would discourage people from doing, I don't want to say overdevelopment, but for example, increasing, say, $1 million house, you could put in almost half that amount in additions, other buildings and so forth and so on, up to $500,000. And that's not something we'd want to encourage in the flood. I mean, ideally, there would be no houses in floodplains, right? You would have plantings or whatever, natural wooded areas. So that's why I suggested the 25%. But if 50% is kind of a standard. Another question I had was about the values. It talks about an appraisal. Now, could that be any appraisal, or would it be an appraisal from a licensed appraiser?
We would require it to be from a licensed appraiser.
Okay.
Most people will just go with the county. The county actually is not too bad with the accuracy of their estimates. If someone wants to dispute that, they would have to get one from a licensed appraiser. And we would have to review it and accept it. If it was something out of line, we could always go get our own appraisal if we thought it was inappropriate.
Is there any value in putting that in the ordinance? I mean, not everything you said, but,
Well, we don't define quite market value, but directly in the ordinance, I don't believe, as to how you arrive at that market value. But as I had put in my email to the commission, there's two ways to do it. One is to go by the county assessment records, which show the value of the land, the value of the building, and then the total market value, which they adjust every year. They used to have a number that was like the fictitious number that you'd have to apply the common level ratio to arrive at what the actual numerical value is. Now they actually put the number in there, which makes life a lot easier.
if I could just ask,
And one other thing, I know you had asked about stuff like garages, sheds. Those are separate from any of the 50% items because they're primarily concerned with, an NFIP primarily ensures the structure that the people live in. They don't insure a shed. They don't insure a detached garage.
okay.
It would only be the actual physical structure of the house.
My main confusion is, we're talking about, when we talk about an appraisal, we're talking about market value. So we're looking at the current market value, and then we're measuring whether it's 50% more against an assessment, which an assessment is only, what, 4.4% of the market value. That's it's like, that's why I said apples and oranges. We're
Okay.
not comparing the same things.
Yeah, let me give you an example. Actually, I should have just called up the Bucks County Board of Assessment, which I thought of earlier, and I forgot to bring it up. But if you go to the Bucks County Board of Assessment to a property, and let me see if I can call it up right now. You'll see how they go ahead and do it. Let's see. We could use an address that I know of. And I'll show you how they arrive at that. Okay. So we'll share the screen. You can see on the Bucks County Board of Assessment, they have the assessed land value as $12,000. The assessed building is 40. The total assessed value is 52,200. Now, there's what they call a common level ratio they use to adjust that to go to the estimated market value. So if you took the ratio of the assessed building to the total assessed value and multiplied it by the estimated market value, that would give you the value of the structure. So it's basically that 40,200 divided by the 52,200 multiplied by the 828,570 gives you the estimated market value of the structure.
Which, in that case, would be what?
And there's probably an easier way to do that, too. You can just take the assessed building value that the Board of Assessment has listed there and just take the common level ratio factor and multiply that. So the common level ratio or common level ratio factor is adjusted annually. Comes out for July, it comes out the end of June, and it's effective July 1st of each and every year for the ensuing 12-month period. So there are many different ways to derive the same number, but it's probably easier to do those calculations.
Yeah, we just do it this way because the common level ratio changes every year. So we use the ratio right here.
Yeah.
Because that estimated market value is based on the common level ratio. So in In the example of this house, the estimated structure value is $638,094.
Okay. And is that anywhere near what the market value is? In other words, in the real world, what the market value is? What, if they were putting it on the market tomorrow to sell it, they're selling it at $800,000 and it doesn't matter that it's, do you see what I'm saying?
Well, even an appraisal isn't really, the truest market value is when you sell the
Is when
home.
you sell it,
Whatever you
right.
get for it, you get. Lately, here in this area, the numbers are far outpacing what they estimate the market value is. So the number is actually kind of low.
Right. So my point is, you're going from an appraisal, which could be much higher than this assessed value, or this, after the ratio's been applied to it.
Yeah, but this is how FEMA accepts it to be calculated.
Okay,
Either an appraisal, or you can use the tax assessment records as your basis.
And that's just for the actual dwelling itself, right? Not the full property, right?
Just the dwelling.
That's probably why
just
it's lower.
That's right, that's just the dwelling,
Correct.
okay.
That's probably why it's lower compared to what the appraisal would be.
This is probably a stupid question, but so every year, is what you're saying that every year, the assessment of every house goes up because of this?
Your assessment always stays the same, so that number, if Jim, I think it was, whatever it was, 40,200, your assessment stays the same every year.
Okay.
Unless you pull a permit and there's a change in your assessment, so to speak.
And that would be because of, say, you put an addition on or
Correct.
something, then your assessment might
Then
go
your
back.
assessment
Okay.
changes. Your assessment only changes if, in this area, if permits are pulled, for the most part, for existing dwellings. What changes every year is the common level ratio, which is the common level ratio factor. That changes. And that adjusts every year annually to accommodate, the intent is to accommodate for the fluctuation in valuations of properties in Bucks County, because we're talking about Bucks County. Each county of the 62 counties in the Commonwealth, each have their own common level ratio. So, this is like the tutorial on assessment law. Some counties do annual assessments or biannual assessments. They'll do reassessments of their municipalities every year, because as we know, Bucks County hasn't done one since 72, 74.
72, yeah.
Our common level ratio is really high compared to many others. Like Philadelphia, for instance, don't quote me on this, but they're near 1.0 because they have done reassessments of their buildings within the past couple of years and continue. They have a rolling assessment right now. So what changes every year is the common level ratio or common level ratio factor, not the assessment. And it is it's adjusted to accommodate for the fluctuation in valuations of properties within the county.
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully that makes sense.
No, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And then get back to your earlier question about the differentiation in values between an appraisal and the assessed value. I have found that assessed values are, they're not necessarily on point, but they're pretty close. They've become closer and closer as in the past couple of years. I know I've done some calculations as of late, and they seem to be more in tune to what the actual value of the properties are and what people are selling them for, et cetera.
But when you say assessed value, you're saying the assessment to which this ratio has already been applied?
Correct, and I think Jim has
Okay,
a...
that's my confusion.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
understandable.
It's market
but-
value.
Yeah,
It's basically another word for market value, even though in our area, it might be
Yeah, assessment
Or-
is different than the market value. That's,
the value.
that's what
Okay.
everything's based on.
and Jim has is determined by the ratio of the assessed building to the estimated market value from the Bucks County Board of Assessment. And the Board of Assessment did change their website in the past couple of years to reflect that market value. Before, they would just put the assessment and leave it to everybody else to do their calculations. So it's clearly on the Board of Assessment website right now, what the assessed value is. And that changes every year based on the common level ratio fluctuation.
Okay.
So, and one other change, actually a few other changes. I know we looked at the current model ordinance from the state for floodplain management, and there was one other line that needed to be added. That's 200-54A, adding in a 2 to say, in the absence of a designated floodplain administrator, the floodplain administrator duties are to be fulfilled by the township manager or their designee. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but it's nice just to have that there to make it clear for everyone.
Clear. So if somebody's not here, you don't have 2 weeks of asking questions.
Right. And I know one of the other questions was, well, how are people going to be directed to this new standalone ordinance from our current zoning ordinance? And so currently we have, under natural resources, we have an item for floodplains, 200-51B1A and B. And in that, we just note that floodplains include all of the areas within the community as selected to enforce floodplain regulations. It will always include the area identified as a special flood hazard area on the flood insurance rate maps and flood insurance study, but may include additional areas identified for the community. We haven't really identified any of those areas yet, but we could, if we so chose, if there's an area that we did a flood study that's prone to flooding that is not on the FEMA maps, we could designate that as a flood zone as part of our floodplain management duties. And then the other section B is just to add at the end, changing the reference of 200-54 whatever to being in Chapter 114, floodplain management. And so with that, unless you have any questions,
Just quick, just for my clarification. A couple of questions. One, the reason we're doing, just so I want to make sure I'm clear on this and we're all on the same page. The reason we're doing this is solely for the purpose of meeting the standard for the insurance to lower insurance rates for anyone who lives in floodplain in the township.
that is correct.
That's the purpose, not,
Yes.
and there's no other underlying purpose of trying to manage development or anything like that. It's solely for the purpose of making sure we're getting the best rates we possibly can within our township for the residents that live in the floodplain.
That is correct. FEMA reviewed our ordinance and noted a few changes to be made.
The two questions. One, I think I asked this last, and I just drawing a blank. If somebody owns the house outright and doesn't get flood insurance, are they still beholden to this?
Yes.
Okay. And the third thing is the township going to proactively communicate when this gets activated, gets put in place to the people that live in those properties, or are they just going to find out when they put in a permit?
One of the things that we need to do as part of our community rating system is to try to educate people on this. This change is a little bit of a change that people should be aware of.
Yeah, for sure.
And they recommend that we notify people
Okay.
about those changes. So I think that's something that I want to put in our next newsletter. You may have read the newsletter. You'll see an article on floodplain management virtually every
Yep.
cycle. And that's a requirement, plus it's just good practice to let people
Yeah.
know what's going on. And this is definitely one of those changes that people should be made aware of, other than
And
just,
make sure they understand why.
right.
It may be onerous to them, but it's also to their benefit.
Right, if they do get to the point of where they are considered a substantial improvement, I mean, it's, we already make them, if you add an addition onto the house, you can't have your electrical systems, mechanical, everything down at that lower level.
Okay.
So people will put, if they put a new heater in, they'll put it upstairs in the
Okay.
attic area and,
Yeah.
make stuff flood resistant, flood-proof materials.
Yeah, that was my, I just wanted to make sure I understood where we were at and make sure,
Yeah.
that's my understanding of what this was for, and I just wanted to make sure we're.
That is correct, and I like the reminder to go ahead and just notify people about this.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done, thanks.
So right now, you own a house in the township, and you're in a floodplain, but you don't have flood insurance. Unless, let's say you don't make any major changes at all, you still cannot, you still are allowed not, you still aren't required to have flood insurance. You won't be required to have flood insurance unless I'm stating this wrong, unless you apply for a permit for some sort of, no, that's wrong.
No,
Okay.
all homes that have federally backed mortgages are required to have flood insurance.
Okay,
So basically, if you take out almost any type of loan other than a loan between two individuals or something, you're required to have flood insurance.
say you.
But if you bought your house in cash,
Say you bought your
You don't
house
need
with
it.
cash.
You don't need flood
You don't need
insurance.
it, and
You
you're
don't
not
need any
required
insurance
to.
if you own cash.
right, I would still recommend to people, even if you bought it for cash, I would still recommend you look into getting flood insurance. It, just an inch of water in the first floor of your house during a flood could cause, I think they estimate $25,000 worth of damage.
Yeah.
So,
So I would correct the statement that you say you don't need flood insurance. You do need flood insurance, but you're not required to have flood insurance if
Right.
you are not, if you don't have a federally backed loan.
But even if you bought the house for cash, you still, if you make improvements more than the 50%, at that point, you'll be required to have flood insurance. Is that correct?
no.
No, you.
It's only when you
need
have
to
a,
comply with the ordinance, but you don't need to
Yeah.
have flood insurance.
Okay.
There's no requirement, no one, we can't make any of the residents purchase flood insurance. That is an individual decision.
Okay.
However, they will have to apply.
It's just, it's a
Comply.
matter of our township's going to get a discount because we're
Right.
managing our properties within the floodplain to a certain set of standards, and we're limiting how much work you can do on that house before you have to raise it up or take other floodplain precautions. That's all.
Precautions, I see,
So
okay.
so whether or not you have insurance now, it's also for people in the future. The municipality gets the discount because the municipality is setting something up.
Setting something
That's
up, okay.
preventing you from going outside these sort of guardrails.
Correct, and it has a cumulative or domino effect. Even if one person doesn't have flood
Yes.
insurance, then, and the neighbors do, everybody else is better off for those people that have it as opposed to those that don't.
yeah.
And I do like the 10-year window, though,
Yes.
because, to be beholden to something that happened like 30 years ago would be kind
Right.
of bonkers.
Right.
Well, I toyed with the idea of just making it from the adoption of our floodplain ordinance in 2014 or 2015. But looking at how other communities have handled this, 10 years seemed like a good, reasonable
Yeah.
number.
Do we know what percentage of the township is actually in a floodplain?
Well, the FEMA designated floodplain, I think it was about 350 or 400 properties out of like 11,000 residential. So it's like 4% maybe.
That's the number that I recall,
Yeah.
4%.
However, there are other homes that are not in a FEMA designated floodplain that, I always encourage people, if you live near a stream, you might want to get flood insurance, unless you're sitting up high.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
And you would be surprised of the houses that are in a floodplain that they don't realize they're in a floodplain. Yeah. I know I used to do a lot of residential mortgages, and it was always an issue 20 years ago when people were getting ready to go to settlement and they found out that they had to get flood insurance because there was a stream that was close by that they were even unaware of. So it's not just, those people that are living along the Delaware.
yeah, that's something that's why we put stuff in our newsletters. If you're a realtor, if you're an insurance agent, if you're a homeowner, if you're a potential purchaser, and if you're curious if you're in a floodplain, you could contact us. We will search it up for you and provide you with the necessary information. There are a bunch of tools available that we have on our website, but you could always just email us or call us, and we'll let you know and give you determination of whether or not you're in the floodplain. So to that, I think I wrote up like a little thing, a suggested sort of motion. I don't know if you want me to read it for you, or if you guys want to read it.
Why don't you read it?
Okay. I'll say, we recommend that the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission recommends to the Board of Supervisors the adoption of a standalone section of the Township Code entitled Floodplain Management as discussed. Amendment of the zoning ordinance to, 1, repeal the following sections to be contained within the new floodplain management section of the Township Code. And I believe that'll probably be Chapter 114, based on what's out there. Section 200-53, 200-54, 200-55, 200-56, 200-57, 200-58, and 200-59. And then revise Chapter 200-51, period B1A and B1B, as I previously read to you. That A would be floodplains include all of the areas within which the community has selected to enforce floodplain regulations. It will always include the area identified as a special flood hazard area on the flood insurance rate maps and flood insurance study, but may include additional areas identified by the community. And B, resource protection ratio for floodplains shall be 100%. No structures, filling, piping, diverting, or stormwater detention basins shall be permitted within the floodplain district except as provided for in Chapter 114, Floodplain Management.
So moved?
I'll
Okay,
second.
do I have a motion? I'm guessing there's no public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have the item number 4, number 693, 1511 Lindenhurst, the sewage facilities planning module, component 4A. And Jim and I had talked earlier, this was brought up previously where in this subdivision, they weren't going to allow, Aqua, I guess, wasn't allow them to get into the, into their sewage component, but now it seems like it's changed now where they're allowing them to connect to their component.
Yes, what they did was, they didn't like to have part of the line to be on another lot, but they came up with a compromise where they would have 2 individual lines run separately within their own separate easements, privately owned, that would tie into their terminal manhole that is located in an Aqua easement. So now that makes it clean for Aqua. They are not responsible for any individual lines. Those individual homeowners have their own separate easements for that, and therefore the planning modules are, as Dan will discuss.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so this was for 1511 Lindenhurst, which I believe was sent to, or you guys reviewed a couple years ago. This is the sewage facilities planning module regulated by the DEP, component for a municipal planning agency review. We don't really have many comments. It doesn't really, propose any encroachments. It doesn't really, there's no known historical or archaeological resources. We marked off all the general things about municipal zoning. It's, consistent with the ordinance and everything. They did receive variances, and which checks off all applicable zoning approvals which have been obtained. And, if you guys have any comments, me and Jim looked over it. It all looks fine, and we can sign it after your recommendation.
I guess my question is, since it meets everything, it's just coming here just because of the variances, I guess, that they had? Is that?
The planning modules require sort of a concurrence from the Planning Commission that what they're proposing is consistent with planning. Obviously, they were granted the variance. They were recommended for approval by the Planning Commission in a prior meeting, and we verified that everything they have is consistent with that. And therefore, we just need you to vote to authorize the signing of this component 4A
Yep, 4A.
of the planning module.
Okay, I'll move.
We get a motion?
I'll move to approve because I think the only question mark here was whether or not they could tie into the sewer, so.
Yeah, yeah.
They can tie into the sewer, so I move to approve component 4A for, what was it, 1911 Lindenhurst?
1511.
1511.
Thanks.
We get a second?
Second?
Any public comment? All right. Then we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, 3-0. Right now, we'll move to item number 5, the SALDO ordinance amendment to repeal stormwater sections for consistency with the new stormwater management ordinance.
Correct. So yeah, essentially, in layman's terms, we're just getting rid of, or we're striking or repealing 3 ordinances from the subdivision and land development ordinance because of the new standalone stormwater management ordinance. It's, I don't know why I have a pushback with my mic, but. Is that better? Sorry. But yeah, their ordinance is 178-92, stormwater management and surface runoff control, 178-94, stormwater detention basin ownership and maintenance fund, and then 178-95, erosion and sediment controls for grading. Is my mic even on? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. But yeah, so essentially, yeah, again, we're just striking this from the SALDO because of the new stormwater management ordinance. I don't know if you have any comments, Maureen. I did try to take a stab at just a very, general wordage for just repealing something, but I'm sure you'll.
You did. It looks fine substantively and materially. I'll just change it for formatting and
Okay.
just to include a few more additions to it, like that's a partial repeal or severability clause and
Right.
Effective date.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I did not get that to you in time for this evening's
worries.
meeting, but it's just real perfunctory verbiage to add.
No worries.
Straightforward. Any questions, comments? No. All right, get a motion?
What do we make?
Guess a motion to approve the,
This,
I guess you could say a motion to repeal
the amendment?
the following ordinances and then just read them from the back of the thing. So just motion to repeal the following ordinances, 178-92, 178-94, and 178-95. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you could say to appeal the SALDO ordinance amendment to repeal stormwater sections, specifically section or chapter 178-93, 178-94, and 178-95 for consistency with the new stormwater management ordinance.
I move that.
Cool. Yeah, I'd go with
178,
the
92, right,
attorney
not
on that
93.
one.
I think it
No,
is
there's 93 on the paper.
It says 93, it's 93. I think
Okay, on the back it
the
was
drafted
92.
ordinance says 92, it should be 93.
Oh, yeah, that is a
It's 93, 94, and 95.
It's a typo, yeah.
I did make that correction, yes.
Motion for Maureen's motion?
I move.
Get a second?
Second?
Guess no public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is passed. And I guess can we get a motion for adjournment unless there's
Can I
anything
ask
else?
one question? I know this is a nit, but I'm determined to follow up and make sure this happened. Because it was a contingency of us saying yes to it, and everyone finally agreed to it after a lot more time than it ought to have taken. So it's all signed up for the, whatever, the
Shed.
shed has to come down. And when did the timeline start? When did it finish? Because we said 90 days, and I'm just trying to Like, I'll stop asking if I have a better understanding of when that clock was stopped. When it's-
Well, I think we're now at a point that we have all of the plans signed and
Okay.
ready to be recorded. Our attorney's office has those to take
Okay.
up to the county. If they already haven't recorded them, they will be recording them very soon,
Okay.
at which point we'll tell them, now you have to take that down.
Okay,
The lot line change?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that, I know, last week we received them. I think we sent, there's a problem with the notary. I think we had to bounce it back. They will be in process.
Okay.
They're going to be
Okay.
recorded next week.
so just, when that happens, just keep us posted, and I'll stop asking.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, I emailed you back this. Right.
Yeah, that's one of those things that could easily just fall through the cracks.
No, no,
And I just made a note to myself there. I put a reminder, in July. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
I just want to make sure it happens, because that whole thing was that was pretty important contingent that we said yes to.
Right.
Okay.
Can I just ask, our next meeting, is it the normal,
Yes, it is
mean date?
August 11th. August 11th at 7:30 PM.
August 11th, okay.
Yeah, that's on my calendar.
And are we anticipating one or two major developments, or do we know?
We are verifying to see if Torbert will be on it, correct, Jim?
Yes, in speaking with the solicitor, or the attorney for the applicant, they had indicated that they're thinking of revising the plans to be re-reviewed, to get a cleaner letter, to then come to the planning commission sometime in September.
Oh, okay.
Our extension of time only runs through the end of August, so tentatively, they're scheduled for that meeting in August, unless they do revise the plans, grant us an extension of time, and come back in September.
And then there's also a special exception, which is overseen by or administered to the zoning hearing board, but the way our ordinance is written, the planning commission has to review it as well. It's for a home in a floodplain, so, yeah, that'll be on that as well.
And the issue with Old Oxford Valley Road, 136 Old Oxford Valley Road, is that coming up? Or
That's on the zoning hearing board, scheduled for this Tuesday, August 5th.
So we don't have to recommend for that one?
No, they haven't submitted formal plans yet. It's just a zoning plan they've submitted for variances.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no technical formal plans have been submitted.
Good?
Yep. I'll move to adjourn.
All right, motion to adjourn.
I move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.